My name is Carter, and a topic I'd like to teach 5 other people in video form would be just the overall topic of exclusion. It's something that I feel like I kind of picked up the most on throughout this semester, as it's kind of prevalent throughout, even since slavery till now. I feel like exclusion is a very looked over thing, where a lot of people like me who don't really have a lot of history in the black history, or don't have a lot of knowledge in the black history, just tend to think of exclusion being like you're left out of like a friend group or whatnot. But if they were to take this class at the beginning, first day class, and you were to ask them what exclusion meant, I feel like they wouldn't be able to give a clear-cut definition of how it would resonate with black people especially. So I would like to talk about a lot of the things that focused on exclusion that we learned in this class. And I feel like a big part that kind of made it more known in my head was learning about the propaganda pieces, and just seeing the pictures of segregation, because prior to this I never really knew what it looked like. I just knew that people were segregated. I didn't really know what that meant. So this was the first, definitely seeing a lot of these pictures in this class, and a lot of them are disturbing, even though there's no like sexual drugs or anything in the picture. It's just very disturbing to see that, for example, there was white taxis for white people, and then black taxis for black people. There was white swimming pools, black swimming pools. There was white water fountains, black water fountains, white playgrounds, black playgrounds. Like, it's just everything that you can think of that we use today normally, like the cafeteria, water fountain, stores, even schools. They were all segregated, and where the white people had the good ones, like they had the better pools, the better cars, the better education. Black people were stuck with the leftovers, if you will, where their water fountains were about this small. Their cars were old. Their education was poor. They were forced to be crammed in a small classroom. And I think that's a very important thing that I would like to teach these 5 people, because it's a very harsh reality to overcome, to realize that exclusion is not just being left out of stuff. It's also a part of history, and it's still even here today. We see a lot of that through the LGBTQ community, and it's everywhere. And I feel like it's something that will never really go away, even though a lot of people strive to have a unified country and nation. I just feel like no one's going to agree on the same thing. Exclusion is just something I really felt like it helped me the most in this course, and it was one of the concepts that really stuck with me throughout the course. And I really learned more about it when we did our zine project, because our group decided to use the term exclusion, because we see that throughout the story, with the different girls who end up at the convent, and their just overall experience and how they got there and what led them there. It's just sad to realize like so many black people had to go through this, and still do go through this today. Obviously not at the harm or the harsh that they did back then, with segregation and the Jim Crow laws. But so I'm gonna show 5 people this video and show them some of the images that we had in our lectures. I think it's particularly it's the lecture 14 with a lot of the segregation pictures, and the other one with the propaganda with Aunt Jemima, for example. So I'm gonna show them those pictures, and I'm gonna show them the video, and I'll get the responses, and hopefully teach them a thing or two about African American history, especially with the concept of exclusion.
My name is Christian On.
All right, after watching the video and seeing the pictures, what is one thing you say that you've learned?
Well, I say I learned something. I did learn a pretty good amount on exclusion, because the biggest takeaway I see is that a big point was that, yeah, you still see it today. and it's still not completely gone, which is why there has to be more attention brought to it.
How did this add to your knowledge?
This video added to my knowledge because it definitely helped me gain more of a reminder that this idea still exists around today, and how will I be able to serve my community and make the world a better place by learning about this topic.
Okay, and what will you do with this information in the future?
I definitely plan to relay it to my my friends and family members, and I also definitely want to use it in my everyday life, going to class, interacting with people, etc.
All right, thank you.
Hi, I'm Kevin.
Okay, after the video and the pictures I showed you, what would you say that you've learned from the video?
I just think that talk about segregation and inclusion is something that's not addressed enough. And a lot of times people aren't fully educated on it. So I think it's good in reflecting on the things that have happened in the past and being able to realize that there are still some versions of that occurring today.
Okay, and how would you say this added to your knowledge?
I guess it just reminds me of everything that's happened, and as a parent, you want to make sure that you pass on that knowledge to people that may not be aware of how severe it was and not that long ago.
Okay, and what will you do with this information in the future?
I think making sure that we're actively talking about it to make sure our kids are aware of the things that have happened in the past, and not only African American culture, but also in the current environment, there's still some form of inclusion or segregation or negative response to people. We want to make sure that we educate and treat everyone fairly.
All right, thank you.
Hello, my name is Cadence Ha.
So Cadence, after I showed you the video about my concept of exclusion in African American studies, and I showed you the pictures of segregation and propaganda, what is one thing you would say you learned?
I learned that racism was more prevalent in history more than I thought, and as well as modern day history, we can see there's many examples of racism as well as exclusion.
Okay. How did this add to your knowledge?
I think it added to my knowledge in a way that I can become more sensitive and see different patterns in society that I would not have recognized before.
And final question, what will you do with this information in the future?
I believe overall it just gives me a more broader knowledge. When I'm looking into different situations, I can see like how racism has prevailed through the past into the present.
All right.
Hi, my name is Lori.
Okay, after you watched the video and saw the pictures, what is one thing you say you've learned?
Well, I learned that the generation of your generation, how close all these events had taken place. Even for me, it wasn't hundreds and hundreds of years ago, because I can't even imagine now doing those things or feeling those ways towards people. And I know it does happen, like you said, in certain communities now, but just realizing that exclusion, like separate drinking fountains, was okay. Like that was okay. And that was only 50 years ago. Like my parents were alive, my grandparents were alive. So that's just beyond me that it was so close in our history. Like that's shocking to think about.
Okay, and how did this add to your knowledge?
Well, it just added for me, it just reminded me that it's still out there and it's still prevalent, and we don't realize it because we are not in these groups that feel that, and we have to realize that we need to be supportive, which we all are, but just be more aware of it and understanding of it, and know it's still out there and not be ignorant about it, because it can happen to anyone. Doesn't matter who.
And,
what kind of group.
What will you do with this knowledge in the future?
I feel like for my kids, teaching them, I mean, they learn about it in history, but always talking about it because it's so prevalent now in the news with everything that's going on with politics and, you know, everyone treating people so unfairly. I think it's important to talk about it in our homes and not so much just in history class, because listening to your video, you didn't really realize it. Like exclusion, like you, in your words, it was just like, oh, I'm excluded because didn't get invited to a party, or I'm on Snapchat and all my friends are somewhere and you feel excluded. That's so shallow when you really think about what it means, you know? And so for me, that makes me realize I should be educating my kids more on that so they understand really what it means.
Okay, thank you.
Hi, my name is Sam.
All right. After watching the video and me showing you the images, what is one thing you say that you've learned?
Before seeing those the video and seeing those images, I was aware of like what segregation was and how black people were excluded, but I never really understood or knew the true extent of it. Like I was aware of segregation within schools, at water fountains, and in diners, you know, where they had sit-in protests. But you know, I didn't realize how many different facets of like society they were excluded, such as like black and white cabs and black and white playgrounds, it's pretty surreal.
Okay, and how would you say this added to your knowledge?
You know, it just, like I mentioned, it helped me understand and grasp like how much segregation extended. You know, it makes you realize that for a country built on the principles of like freedom and equality, they don't really abide by those standards, and which is a huge issue that cannot be continued to be ignored or put aside.
And what will you do with this information in the future?
With that information, you know, I think I would just continue to recognize, you know, what black people endured, and that we live in, you know, a world that's like truly harsh, and that this country, you know, it says it's built on the principles of freedom and equality when throughout history it's proven not to. So I would just continue to recognize that the many issues that exist and continue to, you know, strive to make progress and whatnot.
All right, thank you.